everybody, I am doing a tag video, which I haven't done one in a really long time. My friend Abby over at Abby Salter tagged me in what she's calling the Popular Opinions book tag. Now you've probably heard of the Unpopular Opinions book tag, which is a pretty big tag that was going around BookTube this year. Abby rightly said that we can always do some more positivity on the internet, so basically what she did is she took that tag and flipped all of the questions to positive questions. Now, I think I want to point out exactly that I think this is a great tag to come from Abby herself, because while we are friends and kind of banter back and forth on our Discord servers, we very much do not agree on a series. She doesn't like Robin Hobb or Malazan. Well, she hasn't tried Malazan, but she doesn't want to. So I think that's hilarious. And she likes Sarah J. Maas, which I have no interest in. So we have totally different reading tastes, and yet we can really appreciate one another and like to watch each other's videos. And I think it's a perfect example of the goodness of BookTube as general, and I think this tag is kind of fun to flip that on its head, especially from someone who basically has the opposite reading taste as I do as far as we can get in the fantasy genre. So check out Abby's channel if you haven't. Of course, I'll link her video down below and her channel. Check her out. She's almost at 1,000. We can get her there, folks. But let's start out with the tag. First question, a popular book or series that you love. This is super easy. I am going to say Malazan, Book of the Fallen. I had not heard of Malazan until I was in graduate school. I have been reading fantasy for forever. Unlike most people, I didn't get introduced to it by someone saying, oh, it's the hardest series ever. I just had a couple people say, I really like this series, you should check it out. And so I did. I did enjoy it. And then came back a couple years later and got through. I read the first book that first time. I was like, that's fun, but I don't need any more. And then came back, read it again, and loved it. And listen, I think sort of the intimidation factor is way too high for these books. Are they harder to read than like a Harry Potter? Yeah. But they're not crazy complicated. You can get it. And here's the thing that I think we don't talk about enough. Each of the 10 books in the main series can really stand on their own. They can be standalones. For the most part, except for books 9 and 10, there's no cliffhangers. They finish off everything. So if you're at all like hesitant to start out, it's a 10-book series and it's so complicated, like you can read the first one, enjoy it, and stop. It's full story on its own. Or you could read 2 or 3 and you could stop. So I always tell people, give it a go. Malazan is so good. I love the magic. I love the world. I love the storytelling. I love the theming. I think it's so important for our modern world to have this great epic fantasy series that focuses on compassion for one another. Please read Malazan. It's so good. An underhyped book or series that you love and wish was more popular. I'm going to say the Live Ship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. Now, I know that this is not necessarily an unknown series because it's part of the realm of the Elderlings mega saga that is Robin Hobb's epic and glorious, beautiful storytelling. But I think most of the talk has been around the Farseer trilogy for most of the life of the series, and people kind of live or die on that series. Like they either really like Fitz and the Fool and Chivalry and all the characters involved there in the Six Duchies, and that's really what they latch onto, and they go into that, or they don't like it and so they don't continue on. But the Live Ship Traders trilogy on their own, just those 3 books, is some of the best fantasy fiction ever written. It's my 3rd favorite of all time, and it's brilliant in so many ways, and I think it is so underhyped because it is not mentioned in the realm of best of all time. And I think the other thing that it has sort of against it is a lot of people reckon with the realm of the Elderlings as like a whole, like those 16 or 17 books as a whole. But it's not like Wheel of Time where Realm of the Elderlings is one whole story. Like there's the individual series in between, I think, should be judged on their own merits rather than overall. And also Live Ship are the only books that aren't about Fitz and the Fool. And so they're very different. Anyway, Live Ship Traders is so good. The basic storyline, if you haven't heard of it, is it's somewhat complicated, but the basics are in this area called Bingtown. It's a city called Bingtown in an area called the Cursed Shores. there is this magic wood called wizard wood, and if a family lives and the captain dies upon the deck of a ship that is made of wizard wood, it will be animated. This ship will become a live ship. And this not only brings prosperity because the ship becomes faster, it becomes knowledgeable, it can almost work itself, but it's also this huge prestigious thing. And on top of that, live ships have the ability to survive going down the Rain-Wild River, which is this mysterious land that offers these bizarre riches that can't be found anywhere else in the world, but Bingtown trader families who have live ships can go down there, get this mysterious gold, it's not gold, but like treasure, and sell it at high profits around the world. And so that's the heart of this story. Is a new live ship is being quickened, that's the word for it, for the Vestreet family. And obviously this is caused by the death of their patriarch, but that also causes somewhat of a stir in the family politics, and just that little tension, like the family politics of who's going to take over after a patriarch, all of a sudden trickles over into regional politics in Bingtown and the surrounding areas, and then basically world politics by the end of the series. It's really, really good. In my recent book recommendations, I associate it with Song of Ice and Fire. Like if you like A Song of Ice and Fire, you'll really like it because it has a lot of that political intrigue, as well as some really good love stories, some really interesting magic that like is slowly unveiled, like how it affects things. And the geopolitical situation is so central to the story. It's just really, really good. Definitely, you should pick up Live Ship Traders. And you don't have to read the Farseer trilogy, or if you didn't like the Farseer trilogy, I don't think that's going to take away from your enjoyment of Live Ship. So that's definitely my answer for this question. A romance, love triangle, or one true pair that you love. That's question number 3. Love triangle that I love. This is probably more of a one true pair love story, but I actually am very compelled. I'm sort of becoming a champion, I guess, for the Aragon series, the Inheritance Cycle. Christopher Paolini's work that he did when he was very, very young. I think I'm affected by this because I read this growing up, but I always thought the relationship between Aragon and Arya was so interesting and unique, full of longing and yet sort of unrequited love and desire, even on both sides, if that makes sense. And there's so much complexity, I think, to that relationship that people forget about when they think about those books. But I'm just going to say that one, Aragon and Arya in the Inheritance Cycle. 4, your favorite genre and popular genre that you want to read more often. Okay, so obviously my favorite genre is fantasy fiction. And within that, I sort of like the classical side of things, very, very heavy on beautiful prose, etc. But a popular genre that I want to read more of is actually the fantasy romance genre. I like romance. I like people falling in love. I like the goodness of that, but I haven't really read a lot of fantasy romance. So if you have recommendations for me, put them down in the comments. I would definitely be interested in reading more of that, especially to break some stereotypes of that's the women's genre. 5, a popular or beloved character that you love, or a character that you feel deserves more love. Ho ho ho. Initially, what comes to mind for me is Sansa Stark. Now, hear me out. I think a lot of people who read A Song of Ice and Fire are so frustrated by her at the beginning of the books that they discount how amazing her character growth is through the rest of A Song of Ice and Fire. I love how her craftiness is developed slowly, and she still makes massive mistakes, but I feel so much for her, what she went through, and how she's forced to grow and change and become who she becomes, that I just love that character, Sansa Stark. And I think way too often people are like, oh, she's just bitchy at the beginning. She's literally a child. And actually, the same thing is true for Malazan fans. You will know in books, Felisin is both actually the older and the younger, are oftentimes, I think, mistreated by the fandom at large. Again, saying oh, she's bitchy, blah, blah. and like the horrible things that she goes through and what she's dealing with as a human being. Like, I don't understand why people don't give them more love. So I'm gonna say those two, Felicity and Sansa Stark. An autobuy author. Well, this is kind of funny because obviously Steven Erikson is true, except that Steven Erikson is a really prolific writer, like in a number of different genres. He has the Willful Child series, which is like a sci-fi sort of Star Trek spin-off. He has a lot of like literary fiction and some mystery stuff that he's written that like are outside of genres that I normally go to, and I haven't read his stuff there, so I might not be right there on like automatic buy even for those things. Robin Hobb is similar. She has a lot of great stuff under the Robin Hobb like heading, and I'll definitely read that, even like Soldier Son trilogy and that kind of stuff. But she's also read as Megan Lindholm, I think is how you say that, some literary stuff or some other stuff. So I don't know if that would be automatic buys for me in the same way. I'm gonna surprise some people here because I don't buy a lot of books, but an author that if he came out with a book I would buy for sure, I'm gonna say Patrick Rothfuss. I obviously have Wise Man's Fear and I have Name of the Wind. I haven't bought The Slow Regard of Silent Things, but any book that he comes out with, I love his prose. I think at some points, especially in Wise Man's Fear, his meandering storytelling lets him down a bit, and some wish fulfillment stuff goes a little too far. But overall, I really enjoy that, and it's really easy to say because he doesn't write a lot of books, and I don't buy a lot of books, so it's a good matchup. So I'm just gonna say that. I think some people will be surprised by that. A popular book trope that you love reading about. Abby said this in hers, and I agree. The chosen one trope, or like the hidden identity or hidden royalty, like that stuff, again, if it's done well, I think is always really, really fun. It can be super enjoyable. So I'm just gonna throw out there because I think that's an easy answer and it's true. Like, I don't really tire of that if it's done well. And that's, I mean, honestly, that's true of most tropes. Like, I was gonna say love triangle, but love triangle is hard to do well because normally it's built on miscommunication. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. Chosen one trope I like. Also, a mentor. I'm a sucker for a good old mentor, whether it's Moraine, whether it's Gandalf, whether it's Brom, whether it's fill in the blank. Verity. I like them all. A popular series that you are excited to read. Oh, you know what? I'm going to say, there's a lot of them, obviously. I've not read a lot of stuff, but I'm going to say The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. I have not read any John Gwynne. In fact, my first John Gwynne, I just found out about this, and so this is a little bit of a humble brag, but I'm really excited. Orbit is going to send me an arc for the book one in his newest series, Shadow of the Gods. Boom, check out that beautiful, beautiful color. I mean, this cover is one of the most beautiful I've ever seen. Well done, Orbit. So this is going to be my first John Gwynne, which I think is going to be really unique. I'm going to have a unique outlook on that because I think at this point, most people in the fantasy genre have read at least one of his series. Faithful and the Fallen, I'm going to say I'm very excited about that. A lot of people whose opinions I trust really, really liked it, and everything I heard of has been positive about it. Again, this is funny that I'm answering this for Abby because this is one of her favorite series, and I think John Gwynne was her automatic buy. So, hey, this is going good full circle. Finally, a popular book plus film where you love the story in both formats. I mean, this is a slam dunk. Lord of the Rings, one of the most important stories of my life, both for what I'm doing as far as like I own a movie theater because those movies made me fall in love, not just with movies, but the science and art of movie making. So that's huge for me, like the film side of things. And the books are massive. They're my first fantasy I ever read, first fantasy I ever loved, and I continue to read them probably at least once every 2 years. Love the character, everything about them. I love the world of Middle-earth and how it was developed. So has to be, I know it's not a super unique answer, but it's got to be Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to tag just a handful of other people. I have, let's see, Abby's video up here because I don't want to tag the exact same people. Looks like Alan at the Library of Alexandria hasn't been tagged yet. So Alan, you are tagged. I'm also going to tag, he hasn't, Jake from Man Carrying Thing, because I think he's pretty hilarious. And, Evie. definitely going to tag Evie from Evie Reads. Although, wait, did she change it now? Yes, she was only Evie is what it's called now. But those are the 3 that I'm gonna tag. Feel free to do it, no pressure if not. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of my answers. Obviously, please check out the Patreon. A lot of bonus content there, including my own personal writing projects. Please check that out if you want to support me in the channel and read my work. And as always, first in, last out.